Mr. President, thank you for an inspiring and thought-provoking keynote address. And thank you for sharing your dream with us. And I believe it's not only your dream, it's a mutual dream of the majority of people here, majority of people connected with us online, and a majority of Europeans. And I hope that it is a dream that will eventually, soon enough, come true. As Mr. President has said, there is a conference on the future of Europe. It is a presidential chat with young leaders because, as he mentioned, a dialogue with young people is necessary to shape the future because it's the young generation that will eventually be the leaders of the future. And it is my honor to welcome some of the young leaders from the Future European Leaders Forum, FELF, that is an integral part of the Prague European Summit here on the stage, along with the moderator of this panel, Ms. Karolina Zbytniewska, Editor-in-Chief of Euractiv Poland. And one of the things that the Future European Leaders Forum does for the young leaders is giving them exquisite opportunities. And one such opportunity is undoubtedly the opportunity to have a chat with the President of the Republic of Slovenia. So without further ado, I give the floor to Karolina. And I hope you all will enjoy the debate.
Thank you very much, honorable guests, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Slovenia. First, I would like to wholeheartedly congratulate you for the well-deserved Vision for Europe award and to thank you for introducing this vision to us. Now I would like to introduce a little bit more details about your political career to start with. So Mr. President started his political career at the age of 27. During decades spent inside politics, President Pahor has been elected member of the European Parliament and has served as a President of National Assembly and Prime Minister of the Republic of Slovenia. In 2012, he was elected the 4th President of Slovenia and then re-elected in 2017 for a second term. But this all you can read on Wikipedia. Now I would like to add a little bit more colors to President Pahor's biography. He has been known by a nickname of the Instagram King, today enjoying around 130,000 followers, where beyond pictures from the extra formal occasions, we can follow his sports activity, for example. Finally, in order to win his second term as the president, Mr. Pahor pilgrimed 700 kilometers throughout Slovenia, encouraging personally people to vote. For me, it sounds beautiful in view of the cynicism and detachment of today's politics that we want to overcome during this very presidential chat with the young leaders, conference on the future of Europe. Therefore, as we plan to talk more inclusively about the future of Europe, I would like also to introduce the participants of the Future European Leaders Forum, FELF. So first, let me start with Lucy Kopkova from Czech Republic. She has studied European politics at King's College London and media and communications at City University of London. She enjoys reading, modern art and sports in her free time, mainly running and horse riding. I guess running is her mutual hobby with President Pahor. Tomasz Obremski studied international economics and finance and accounting at Warsaw School of Economics and development and international relations at Aalborg University in Denmark. He also completed 2 exchange semesters in Taipei and Beijing. Currently, he is the Asia-Pacific Affairs Coordinator in the Polish Forum of Young Diplomats. Markus Fischer studied international business from Vienna and then environmental policy at Sciences Po Paris and in international relations at Peking University. He is a junior postgraduate fellow at the EU-China Energy Cooperation Platform and currently employed at Ørsted, a leading renewable energy company. And finally, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Karolina Zbytniewska. I'm the editor-in-chief at Euractiv Poland, major media in Poland focusing on European and international affairs. And I have a real pleasure and honor of chairing this important discussion. So, Conference on the Future of Europe. The European Union is indeed inviting Europeans, the European citizens, to discuss and take action to help out in shaping together the future that we all want. President Pahor was, together with Italian President Sergio Mattarella, the initiator of the letter Let's Talk About Europe, signed by all the presidents of the EU member states. So yes, let's talk. So to start, Mr. President, we already know your vision for Europe. So now could you tell us, how do you think that Conference on the Future of Europe may make this vision come true?
Well, as I said before, I do not expect too much out of this conference. But I do think that this conference is some sort of transition conference. Basically, in the last couple of years, every leader, it's been a consensus among us, thought that it would be useful to debate our future. As I said, the draft constitution back in 2005, I think, has been rejected by the people. And then we worked on Lisbon Treaty successfully. But everybody knows that Lisbon Treaty is okay. It's not, you know, it's not been as much as draft constitution. Then we decided to go with the crisis. And I think we recognized that if we would like to face crisis more efficiently, we need also some institutional changes. Not just institutional changes. I know how difficult this is to debate, but so my response to your question is that we also need some institutional changes, and this Conference on Europe does not provide the framework for such a debate. Maybe, just maybe, French President Macron next year, in March, mid-May, mid-April, will announce some of them, but we should wait and see. So I think this is a transitional conference. It is just okay to have it. I think it offers us to debate a little bit more intensively our common vision, but I think that time will come when there will be a strong consensus among politicians of 27 and general public, European citizens, that the time has arrived, maybe to think about a new draft constitution. As I said, I deeply believe that without such a constitution and some institutional changes, maybe to have, as I said, the President of the European Union, we cannot play a global role. We will not be enough connected within ourselves to face global challenges. And Europe will phase out. Listen, China is coming, is there, is already there. And the United States are on the other side of Atlantic. And let me say, for 70 years, after Second World War, we debated international relations as Atlantic relations. This will be different in a couple of years. Will be a Pacific relations. So there is a question where Europe should be in the future. If we would like to be there with global partners as China and the United States, I think we should think a little bit more ambitious about also our institutional changes. I know how people are reluctant to debate this issue, but I think in time to come there will be a really need to do that job, and I hope very much will be make more successfully than 15, 20 years ago.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. But not all the citizens are reluctant to discuss this issue, and certainly not our young leaders. So I would like to ask out first Lucy Kopkova to present your presentation about European democracy, and then I would like to ask the President for your feedback and maybe some follow-up questions to Lucy. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I hope everyone can hear me. I'm here to represent the group focusing on the topic of European democracy and EU democracy. And specifically, our policy recommendation will be focusing on the topic of rebuilding trust in transparent politics. Specifically focusing on political campaigns, political advertising, and its funding. Our policy brief and our policy recommendation has a very strong backbone in the current and future legislative recommendations and legislative processes conducted by the European Commission related to increasing the transparency of political campaigns and political advertising, specifically revealing specific funding information, and in order to uncover dubious sources of funding, and in order to increase the connectedness between voters and their national parties. Therefore, our concrete policy proposal is to create a EU-wide database where we would collate national statistics, national information from all 27 member states. This information will include information from each member state's national parties and the breakdown of its individual funding components. And then this will be brought together in this database, which will then be published on the EU website, on individual governmental websites. And we also aim to engage NGOs in order to create more awareness and plug this database more into the EU electorate.
Mr. President.
Well, being a chairman of a political party for 15 years, I do recognize how important this issue is. It is important. The basic goal is to be transparent. Transparency is so important. So I do support your vision as far as this issue is concerned. Let me add a couple of sentences. We are facing some sort of lack of confidence of general public to political parties, but not just political parties. What worry me in a sense is that we can observe, and across Europe, not just in your country or in my country, a lack of confidence to institutions, which is much more than just to the political parties. So I think one thing to do is then to clarify how the money goes. And then this will be not enough, but this will be a very good start to reshape a little bit the whole political spectrum, in a sense that it would be much more open to the general public, and then would be also a little bit easier then to decide whom to trust.
Yes. Lucy, would you like to respond?
Thank you very much for these remarks. We have, in fact, talked and discussed or touched upon this during our discussions, and yes, we are willing to sort of have this as a test run. So, as you said, a perfect starting point for further discussions and further developments on this.
Basically, I think we will debate one general issue which is debated all the time in all the countries, and this is the I don't know, the public funds and private funds. And I cannot now say the final word on this issue, but both should be transparent. Yeah. This is for sure. And then we will see how to manage it. Both options have some, privileges, but also problems. We should think very smartly how to deal with this issue, because it is one of the most important issues to build then a strong democracy on it.
Thank you. I have one follow-up question to you, Lucy. So the problem you diagnose is the unfulfilled promises of politicians that lead to lack of trust and confidence in political parties. Your solution is a transparency mechanism. How do you think such a mechanism, so the transparency of party money, translate into politicians keeping their promises?
So, I think, or speaking on behalf of the group, there is this consideration of being held accountable once the information becomes visible and you are in the public eye in terms of the different funding components, for example. You have this sort of invisible stick above you and this sort of incentive to come out as clean as possible, as in a way, in order to persuade the voters to restore their trust in you. Because if suddenly you have all the other national parties revealing or uncovering their funding information, their funding details, and you're amongst the few that is not, then you become the topic of discussion, you become questioned.
May I add one
Sure.
thing? Being transparent is very much important, and this will also be some sort of inspiration for young people to enter the politics. But let me tell you one thing. If you have an idea, there is no need for a huge money to attract the attention of the people. We've just had a referendum on Sunday. Let me simplify it, on environmental issue on fresh water. No strong money, no huge money invested in campaign via, social media, and a lot of young people have participated. 45% in mid-July. Well, I think if there would be a general elections, we would have the same, level of participation. So I would like to say that for the future, to inspire young people to participate in politics, besides being a transparent space, it has to be a space of fresh idea. If you will come with fresh idea, there will be young people that would like to go with you and for you.
Would you like to respond?
Just thank you very much for your remarks.
Great. Okay, then now it's time for Mr. Tomasz Obremski to present EU in the World topic.
Okay, so Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, my group was dealing with EU in the world migration security, and throughout our analysis we've been going closer and closer to the European continent, and we realized that Europe is not united, not even connected. Since the Eastern enlargement, Central and Eastern Europe has experienced tremendous economic progress. However, the region understood as a whole is still lagging behind. One of the reasons is that a lot of countries in Central and Eastern Europe are not only outside of the European Union, but also fails to connect with the bloc. This leads to political instability, migration, brain drain, and such situation leads to a vacuum that can be easily exploited by foreign and external adversaries' powers to the European Union. To avoid new divisions in the European continent, the EU has to act beyond its borders. It's time to add to already existing west to east channels, new south-north connections that will this time include also non-EU European countries. The aim of restructuring the economic and financial relations in the CEE is to promote a deeper integration between EU's member state and non-EU's countries, and create a CEE as a common space able to open new markets for European companies, unleash a full economic potential from both sides of the EU's border, and make the region more economically sovereign. In order to obtain that, we would like to propose, under the next multi-annual financial framework, a new CEE Development and Security Fund that will merge funds already existing, but operating separately for member states and for non-EU European countries, such as Regional Development Fund, instruments for pre-association assistance, or brand new Global Europe. Such a solution will ensure a continuity of the projects across various countries, promote EU standards such as sustainability, our screening mechanism, and will help to avoid double funding or excessive bureaucracy that is often a case nowadays. We also believe that with such a solution, by merging already existing funds, it will be easier for us to convince some skeptical decision makers in the Western Europe, which we see as one of the biggest obstacles or challenge for the implementation of the idea. However, it is not only our idea, as even managing director of IMF and European Commissioner noted during last Free Seas Initiative Summit in Sofia, better connectivity of the whole Central and Eastern Europe, no matter of the EU borders, is in the best interest not only of the region, Poland, Germany, France, Italy, Western Europe, and beyond. So, stronger EU in the world starts in Europe, and that's our message.
Thank you. Mr. President, what's your feedback?
I've been to the conference in Sofia, the Three Seas Initiative. After 6 years, I've been also at the beginning of this, let's say so, initiative. After 6 years, I can say it works. I mean, there is now a financial fund there. With the investment of Poland of 600 or 700 millions, I mean, come on, this is really something. And also, my government has now invested into the fund. And I think besides 3 countries, everybody's now investing in the fund. The aim is to get better connectivity. So from Baltic to Adriatic, from east to west, definitely there is a huge need for it. But I do not speak just about, you know, roads. We have to think digital also. This will be the connectivity of the future. But let me say, and I do share your view. I have a question for you, if you would be so kind. Let me start with a question then. Do you think that we have to work separately? I think countries of Central and Eastern Europe, or we have to work together among 27 to then avoid this division which still exists in the development. What is your vision? Should we work together, or should we go a little bit, you know, for ourselves and then try to get a solution there?
Yes, I think this is one of the biggest challenge for Free Seas Initiative. I'm definitely more for the latter one, so we should do it across all 27 members, because what needs to be stressed out is that Free Seas Initiative and this connectivity for Central and Eastern Europe is not a project against the European Union. It's compatible with its values and with its targets.
Exactly.
And this is a diplomatic message that maybe we need to stress out a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. That is why when I hosted the summit 2 years ago, 2019, yes, I insisted to invite German president to be part of the conference as a guest. I know that there is no consensus on German membership, but I just wanted to have a Germany there because I just didn't want to see the Three Seas initiative be seen as a, you know, a new division in Europe. By the way, Three Seas initiative has one important partner, and that is the United States. In particular, from the beginning. But now I'm been quite happy to see via video also not just addressed by President Biden, but also I think Japan foreign minister, I think this is a good way to go. I mean, to attract, you know, the attention of Pacific and United States to invest here. But also EU to have on board. And by the way, I think will be so crucial how this huge amount of money, recovery plan, I think, will be spent in next years to come. Because this is not the money to just invest, but to invest smartly, in a sustainable development, green, smart, digital. So now will be, you know, transparency, not just important for political parties, but how this money will be spent. Should be spent on those purposes. We should be very well aware of this, and we should watch very closely governments how the money will be spent. And we have huge privilege, I think, in eastern part of Europe to maybe make a little bit stronger, you know, how to say, stronger step towards western part of Europe if we will invest smartly now. So this is a huge privilege. I hope it will be taken as such.
Would you like to respond?
Yeah, I most definitely agree. I think EU has to be present and supervise how this money are being spent, because it's not the only actor in the region. We also have 16+1 initiative by China, which is not necessarily only competitive to us. There might be some synergies in connectivity projects, but EU has to be on the board, EU has to be present and see that these investments are not leading to some political instability or debt trap.
Yes. By the way, now it is a common practice that always the EU institutions are participating in Three Seas initiative. Always. And this is very, very good, because at the beginning I've seen the danger that this would mean a new division within Europe, as you said, and this was so important. We have to go together to the future, not you know, divided. So yes, we share the same vision of this.
Tomasz, I have a question. So how would you like to make sure that your proposal of a more unified, common Central Eastern European space will not cement the divide that you want to bridge?
Well, first of all, the connectivity, because I think after the Eastern enlargement, the EU countries managed to get connected to the Western Europe, and that fostered their economic growth. But still, there is not enough synergies between those countries. And that's something we need to focus on to make this region self-reliant. And the same way as Eastern enlargement promoted economic development also in the Western Europe, I believe that implementation and connections with the non-EU member states, which are still being far for the full integration with the EU, will also push Central and Eastern Europe EU countries to further development.
Which countries do you have in mind? I mean, non-member countries?
Western Balkans, Eastern Partnership.
You're from Czech Republic? Or?
No, I'm from Poland.
From Poland. How present is there in your general public the question of Western Balkans? We are now in chair of the Council. We would like to put this very high on the agenda, but there is, you know, some sort of feeling that we are facing enlargement fatigue, and that not just Western part, but also Eastern part is not so keen now to enlarge. but to consolidate. What is the general feeling in Poland about?
Poland. A few years ago, we had a summit in Poznan discussing the enlargement in Western Balkans, but I think there is lack of political will also in the Western Europe. The EU Council presidency shifts every 6 months, and right now it's high on the agenda, but I think once France take it, it's going to be again on the bottom. So I think we need a little bit more consistency and long-term goals.
I do completely share the view with you. It is so important not to, miss the moment. Now, still, those countries in Western Balkans are ready to follow, this inspiration to be members of EU. But with lack of confidence to EU, things there could go the other way, in the way that we don't want to see. Just remember the war 25 years ago. I'm not saying that we are going there, but it is a sensitive region with beautiful people, with really unbelievable privileges for development, but with some political, political problems which are basically due to very complicated history. If there would be another future, European future, this history would not be so important. And the transition there, also democratic transition and all that stuff, would go smoothly. And this is to be recognized among EU, that now we have the privilege to be an important actor there. If not, Russia will be there, or China will be there, China with money, and some others because of their political agenda and so on. So if somewhere, then there is the place for Europe to be. So I would like to thank you for your opinion on this.
Thank you very much.
Actually, I have one more question also to Mr. President, but first I would like to ask for the answer, Tomasz. So you suggest conditionality clauses in your CEE Development and Security Fund. How would you reconcile diverging definitions of democracy, rule of law, and human rights presented by different EU leaders and political powers? For some, for example, what's happening with the media in some countries is a democratic regression, but for politicians who direct these processes and for their voters, it's often a democratic progression. How to reconcile these two visions?
Yeah, I think two issues here. First is that with such an ambitious Marshall Plan for these non-EU countries, it will be much easier to incentivize, and by binding these cross-border investments, we'll have much more influence on the proper implementation and scrutiny of these projects. And those are the obstacles for the full integration of these countries with the EU. So that's why, if it's not possible right now, we want to make smaller step first, promote connectivity and go there with the soft power, with trade, and hope that by such an interactions we will be able in the future to have a positive impact on these countries, and that will lead in the mid-term or long-term to the full integration. And the second part is that we also have to be aware that we are not the only actor in the region, because, for example, China usually has no conditionality clauses, and basically we also cannot be focused that much on that, because as Mr. President said, if not us, then them. So we just need to fight for our space over there and make sure we do have an influence over our closest neighborhood.
Mr. President, how to unify the world?
May I ask you another question? I'm sorry. Russia. We've mentioned Russia. You are from Poland.
Yes.
I'm a very good friend of your president, Duda. And we have been debating many times a special sensitivity of Eastern countries on Russia. And there is a feeling among your leaders and people that maybe sometimes Western Europe is not so sensitive on Russia as you are. And this goes also for Slovenia, because we have never been a part of Warsaw Pact. We did not experience Russian occupation. So our feelings towards Russia is a little bit less complicated, less strong as in your case.
Of course.
What would be your suggestion to Brussels? How to conduct relations with Putin and Russia?
Yes, I must say on behalf of our team that we've been thinking about two policy themes that were our finals. One of them was like how to actually address different perceptions of security among EU member states, because Spain and Italy are mostly concerned about Northern Europe, Eastern Bloc is mostly concerned about Russia. France doesn't face a significant threat that much, maybe terrorism, right? So addressing this inconsistency is very challenging. And what I would like to see from Brussels, from Berlin, from France, from Paris, is a bit more assurance, a bit more integration, that, for example, Eastern Europe is very afraid of Nord Stream 2 for obvious reasons, because the first pipeline put a lot of instability on the Ukraine, and maybe some more energy market integration will solve the problem, will make us feel more comfortable and more safe. So I know that across every capital in the European continent we have different perception on Russia, but in order to address this inconsistency, we need to communicate and we need to step forward with some solutions that can make us more comfortable.
Then I would go and say to Andrei, let's go and debate with Russia and so on, and he would be, oh, come on, do not be naive, do not be naive.
Of course.
So the general observation from our friends in those countries, in Poland, Czech Republic, and so it's Baltic countries, not to be naive. Are we naive when we are trying to invite in a way Russia to be involved in a dialogue on Minsk and other issues, Minsk agreement? Are we naive?
Most definitely, yes.
Okay, thank you. Time for Markus Fischer, and I would like to ask you to present your digital transformation topic.
Yes, thank you very much indeed. So our topic was from the policy proposal on digital transformation, in particular AI, because the problem we are facing is that Europe is not competitive in artificial intelligence. Now, let me give you an example. You can think of the Chinese company Baidu that has a state-of-the-art AI algorithm called Deep Voice for instant translation services. It's really state-of-the-art. You can also think of smart cars, self-driving vehicles, and how Silicon Valley companies such as Tesla are leading the way there. But now think of a European example. And it already takes longer, right, to come up with something. So why? There's two reasons to that problem. The first is insufficient funding, and the second is a lack of talent. Now, insufficient funding is both funding of basic research on AI, but also, importantly, a lack of venture capital. And secondly, the problem with talent is that it is difficult for Europe to attract or retain talent, top AI experts, so really the experts, but it is also something that we can see through the whole society. 42% of European citizens lack basic digital skills. So what can we do? In our policy proposal, we suggested solutions to these two problems. First, on the funding, we suggest to pool resources and make funding more efficient for basic research on AI. But we also propose to use public money in order to de-risk private investments into AI, and using public money in order to make the ecosystem of AI innovation work, so the private capital can come in and then really grow it. And on the talent, we propose for the top experts something like an EU Schengen visa in order to attract these talents and offer them attractive rewards. And we also think of retraining, so retraining the existing workforce towards digitalization. And here we want to build on the EU Digital Education Action Plan, for example, by making coding classes mandatory in schools. Every child should learn coding as they are learning math nowadays. And we also want to retrain people. Yesterday on this very stage, the Secretary of State from Slovakia said that their economy is dependent on the combustion engine vehicle sector. And we all know that combustion engines are a dying industry. So why not use funds in order to retrain these people, retrain the mechanic that is working on a combustion engine or the worker in a combustion engine plant, and make them fit for the future of mobility, which is going to be more connected, more digital, and electric. So overall, we propose more efficient funding and talent policies in order to make Europe competitive in artificial intelligence.
Sounds wonderful, Mr. President.
Well, as I said from the very beginning, it is my vision, it should be our vision, I think, to be competitive with the rest of the world. China will become in a couple of years maybe the very first. Who would think about this 20 years ago? So the development is going really amazingly fastly. The United States has been always there. But I think EU is in a way, as a continent, not a union, is losing its position in the world as far as this competition is concerned. So if EU as a union would like to compete, and I think this should be our goal, to be competitive, then I think we will have to think about scientific union also. There is a Schengen area, so we are capable to think about such important decision. We have a monetary union, Euro. Not that every country is now a member of Eurozone, but we have our own money. I think to be competitive in technologies, we should think about scientific union, to get together our talents, to attract talents from around the world. What US has been doing from after Second World War. How many people from Europe have gone to the United States to study there and to be there, work there. So we should think about a fresh conditions for talented people on this area, to be invested in them, to be invested in public funds also, not to maybe neglect private sector, but also to publicly fund some huge money in this. Recovery plan is on the road to this goal, which is very good. So yes, I do think that if we would like to be competitive, it starts with the economy. It always starts with the economy. It's all about economy, you stupid, Clinton said.
We remember.
And
Marcus?
yeah, maybe to add on that also, the economy in this particular than the economy of the future, which will be driven by technologies such as artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, but also by green technologies. They will make up the brunt of economic innovation over the next decades until 2050. We have this plan to decarbonize, so it's really important that it is the economy, and where we can be competitive in the future is the economic sectors of the future, particularly digitalization and green technologies.
Wherever capital and money are coming together, there is a development there. And I think we are coming to this point in our development, as far as green technology is concerned.
Marcus, a great and very well-developed initiative with concrete and constructive proposals. And now, how would you like to make the EU hear and benefit from your proposal?
Yes, so we believe that we can contribute towards the EU with providing concrete policy solutions, in particular on building existing initiatives such as the Digital Action Plan, Digital Education Action Plan, but further develop that with some creative concepts that might not be developed by enormous experts, of course, in the EU institutions that have a lot of knowledge, but maybe bringing in this perspective of young people that might have a bit more experience with the practical life of how digitalization works, who grew up as digital natives. So bringing in our perspective through this and making concrete solutions that will then hopefully also find the one or the other ear that is willing to listen and even implement these.
Thank you. Okay, now it's time for our young leaders to present the message from the youth, and I would like to ask first Marcus to present your vision.
Exactly, so speaking on behalf of youth now, not the group, and on the next generation of the EU, the next gen EU, what the youth is. The youth will inherit enormous challenges. Think of the climate crisis. 35, 40 degrees in a city as beautiful as Prague. Through our lifespan, this will not be an extreme anymore. Or other extreme weather events, such as, extreme rainfall, hail. They will not be called extreme weather events, they will just be called the new normal. So this is the world we will live in. There will also be other challenges apart from climate. If you think of a lack of digital infrastructure, rising geopolitical tension, maybe the competitiveness, which we said, the economic situation. At the moment, right, the budget deficits are growing, and through our lifetime, young people, we have to deal with these budget deficits. So we will face a lot of challenges going forward. And I'm really, to quote The Who, I'm not trying to cause a big sensation, but I'm really trying to talk about my generation. So from the climate crisis to the deficit, we will inherit enormous challenges. However, we are able and willing to contribute to solving these challenges. We will be able to contribute, like we do with the policy papers, to make solutions work because we have this experience. And it is important to involve young people from an early age and an early stage onwards. If we deal with these challenges like climate change in 20, 30 years when we are in decision-making roles, then it's going to be too late. So it is important that we're involved from an early stage onwards. And my colleague Thomas is now explaining why we have the ability to be involved, to contribute.
Yes, thank you, Marcus. Our generation has been raised with these challenges. They didn't pop up during our lives. Throughout our education, we've been discussing and studying possible solutions. But I would like to stress out 3 things that makes us distinguished and capable to deal with the challenges of tomorrow. First is that throughout our lifetimes, the digital progress and technological progress went very rapidly. And year by year, we had to learn new solutions, new programs, new state-of-the-art projects, and that created a skill of learnability and adaptability, which I think is very crucial for facing the issues of tomorrow. Second thing is that we also have been raised not only in homes, not only in school, but also on Facebook and Twitter, in social media. And our generation is able to break the information bubbles that right now are a huge challenge for policy communication. We see it across the whole European continent, and I think our generation is able to bring some solutions to that challenge. And the third is that we had a possibility to study not only across the whole Europe, but also across the entire world on different continents. And what we learned is that Europe, whatever is believed, is no longer the center of the world. It's no longer a center of the world, and it's actually made by 2 types of countries, small countries, and those that are yet unaware that they are small. However, together we are creating the biggest single market of the world, and we do have a means and instruments to promote peace, prosperity, and serve as an example of economic integration. And I believe that's something we would like to promote, and what are the concrete examples how the youth can be implemented in the decision-making process will be presented by my colleague Lucy.
Thank you very much. I would just like to reiterate points made by my fellow colleagues here. We as the youth are here, we're present, and we're very much aware of what is going on and what will be going on when we essentially grow up. There are many different initiatives already active from the lines of the youth, such as the Children and the Youth constituency at the EU's COP. Then there are also the Model United Nations delegates, constantly active even during this pandemic, online in conferences. Then there's, of course, the Future European Leaders Forum. That is us. We are here and we are acting. We are actively contributing to making a change. We're actively contributing to offering solutions that will benefit not only us in the future, but also future generations to come after us. Therefore, it is important to involve the young people in active dialogue with current decision makers and current authorities. It is vital for us to be able to have a say and express what we feel is important to us, because we, right now, are constructing, innovating, and generating a new world and a new reality for us to come in the future. Therefore, that is our message.
Mr. President, how would you respond?
Well, maybe you are young people, but with very mature vision, and I've been privileged today to be among you. Thank you so much.
Then I would like to ask you, how do you think young leaders, young people, may make the European Union not only listen to all these proposals, but also really hear them and really apply them, so that we just not have another discussion?
Listen, there is one difference among us. I belong to a generation that experienced completely different type of society and political system and all that stuff. Basically, you are born in a new homeland, European Union. So you have not this all emotions, go with this different experience we had. You are fresh. You will think out of the box. We are still in this bloody box of our past. You are already out of it, and this has been so clear today when debating with you the future.
Mr. President, I would like also to ask you a little bit more about your vision, because you mentioned, but also the young leaders agree, that European Union needs to be more competitive. Do you see that by European Union alone, or would you see that together with the alliance of democracies that, for example, President Joe Biden recently has been mentioning?
Absolutely together. I think still there is a West as political unity. Western part of European Union on one side, and United States and Canada on the other side of Atlantic. I think NATO is very important, but it's not just about NATO as a military force, but West as a political unity still. So I am a great believer in this alliance, not to underestimate our own efforts for defense, capability of European Union. But nevertheless, we have to work together. And yes, I've been very much in favor of President Biden, and let me tell you why. From very selfish reasons. He's back to, as he said, he's back to international community. For us, this is extremely important to have United States back in Paris Agreement. Without US, this climate agreement is not an important tool how to react to climate changes. Then he's back to World Health Organization. Then I think there is, let us not talk too much about it, but I think the United States is trying its best to come back to some sort of Iran nuclear deal is, I think it's shaping a little bit, okay? So I think this is important to have US administration which is willing to work with us to work with them, and so make us a little bit more stronger together, also in comparison with Russia, with China. Not that I would like to see Russia as our competitor. That is not an enemy. And I also do not see China as our enemy. I do see China as our huge competitor. That is how I see But there is obvious that there is coming some sort of different view among NATO members as far as China is concerned. China is definitely not just economic force. It's becoming also a very strong military force. There is no need to look a lot around and see how they are extremely involved in things around their hemisphere. So let us work together, yes. I'm very pleased that President Biden is in White House, and I look forward to work with him.
We have just 2 minutes and 27 seconds, so just one very short question for a very short answer to Markus. From Karolina. Markus, who do you think might teach the youth the digital skills you are talking about?
Yes, so teaching the digital skills will be a whole society effort, right? We're talking about 42% of European citizens that lack basic digital skills. So this is a whole society effort where, of course, there needs to be implemented in the education system. There should be programs that are funded by the European Union, maybe in cooperation with the private sector. You know the example of electric vehicles versus combustion engine, so that retraining. So this will be programs, but in order to overcome that digital gap, we need a whole society effort where really it's not only in the education system or only some specific trainings, but the entire society shifts and recognizes the importance. And I think with all its many negative effects, the pandemic, one has to agree, had this maybe positive effect that it is clear to many people now, many more than before, that digitization is very important. And I think this is the right, we should take this as a momentum and now drive it further and really offer many learning abilities and education campaigns and just to shape this societal change that the future is digital. And also not forget, the future is digital and the future is green. And I think transforming society into that green and digital future is what is needed.
Thank you very much. Less than 1 minute, Mr. President. I would like us to ask you for your final word, how to make the youth more involved.
Well, listen, I've never said to young generation, you should do that or other things. When you will be called, you will be there. There is no need to underestimate this. You will be there, I'm pretty sure.
Thank you very much.
You are already there, so thanks God.
Exactly. Thank you very much for this fascinating discussion. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you very much, Lucy Kopkova. Thank you very much, Tomasz Obremski. And thank you very much to you, Markus Fischer. Thank you very much to our honorable audience. And I would like to ask you for a photo with young leaders. Thank you very much.